Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. I'm with LaRita Baskerville, and she and I were just chatting before we went on air. We were chatting about, of course, structuring this interview, but I also kind of mentioned some commonalities in things that have bonded us, and how we originally got together. We have a joint LinkedIn friend, a very special guy named Michael Turner.
Right.
And I met Michael on LinkedIn, and we Zoomed a little bit, and Michael was able to bring LaRita and I together. And of course, when he threw her name at me, I looked at her, like her resume was like amazing and incredible. An attorney advisor to U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. She's a YouTube influencer. But the key thing for me, is we talk about all the time, LaRita and I, we've spoken a few times, is our Rutgers bond. We're really bonded because I'm a Rutgers-Newark guy as well. And we lived not simultaneously, but we lived in the next town over.
Right.
You know, Newark and Orange. So this is an extreme pleasure for me to do this interview with you. And I'm so grateful that you giving the time up to do this. So without further ado, why don't you, LaRita, jump in and do a little bio, and then we'll jump into what I think is a fascinating interview.
Thank you, Calvin, for having me on We the Species. And like you said, we have a commonality, Rutgers University, Newark campus in particular.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful that we're able to cross paths, and that Rutgers was kind of the start of our careers. We ended up in different paths, but we somehow still intersected. So I'm grateful for that. We're both trying to spread information and hopefully help other people. So I think that's an honorable thing. So thanks for having me on here today.
Truly, I'm really thrilled about this. Again, not to reiterate or to perseverate, I like to use these fancy semi-legal terms, but you know, the Rutgers bond. You know, when I was at Rutgers Newark, just to show you how far back I do go, there was no campus. I don't think we talked about it. There was no campus. I was there in the 60s, you know, the mid 60s. So it was a couple of buildings, and it was a couple of buildings. And of course, I've been there many times recently as an alum and interacting, but I was there, and it was so different. And actually, one of my study halls at Rutgers, it was a study hall, and it was like the 4th or 5th floor down, in the basement.
Oh.
You used to study there. I used to study there, and sometimes I'd take a deep breath, and I'd be smelling beer. And it was a very hard environment to study in. And finally, I found out why I was smelling beer, because it was an old brewery.
That makes sense.
Rutgers Newark in the 60s.
Right.
So anyway, you're an attorney. So why did you want to become an attorney?
Well, it started out where I'm one of those annoying people that kind of knew I wanted to be an attorney since I was a kid. So even my high school yearbook, it says, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said I wanted to be an attorney. And when I set my mind to something, I do it. But it was kind of born from growing up. My dad was a foster parent, and we saw literally hundreds of kids come in and out. And I would often wonder kind of why the children were in the situation they were, why they couldn't get more resources. And I'll often hear the social workers say, "Well, my hands are tied. I can't do anything. The judge said this," or somebody higher up, maybe a lawyer, government lawyer. So I'm like, you know what? I want to be that person that's in charge, making those decisions. to actually help children in the future or just help people, because the person I was talking to said their hands were tied, and I wanted to be in a position where I could actually do something. So that was kind of the impetus for me even wanting to go to law school and what I wanted to do. I didn't end up in the the children enforcement, or I guess the DIFAS is New Jersey, Division of Youth and Family Services. I think they call it a different name now, but I didn't end up in that field, but I ended up in the field that was still helping people. And that's what I'm passionate about, helping people and being in position to be able to make the decisions. I guess policymaker could have probably done the same job, but I knew I wanted to be an attorney. So that's kind of how I ended up where I'm at. And now I've been an attorney for 10 years. This next month will be 10 years. So.
You don't look it. Wow. You know what? I didn't look at dates when I was reading your bio. I almost thought I just graduated 10 years.
Oh,
that's great.
I've been here a while.
Okay, that's great. I like to ask this because of, as I mentioned, I'm very attached to our alma mater, and I love our alma mater obsessively. When you were at Rutgers, Newark, how did attending Rutgers kind of shape your decision to become a lawyer? Did it?
It did. I had one professor. Well, I had a few professors that had a positive impact on my decision to become a lawyer. One professor in particular is Professor Lisa Hall, and she, I took as many classes as I could that they would allow me to take with her. You can tell that I like my political science classes and my criminal justice classes, and it just further piqued my interest to say that the cases we would study, the issues we would talk about, civil rights issues, gender issues, just the legal issues was very interesting to me. And so Professor Hull was actually one of the professors who recommended some law schools that I attend. And I actually ended up going to one of the only public interest law schools in the country. And it was because she told me about it, and she knew that they had a plan to help the underrepresented. And as part of our jobs there when we were in law school, we had clinical programs, and we actually did hands-on helping people who couldn't even, some of them couldn't even read, helping to make sure they got their rights ensured. And so I did over 800 hours of pro bono work before I even graduated law school. So I knew I was passionate about it during, and it just kind of further solidified my commitment to wanting to help. So Rutgers and Professor Hull played a good role in having that happen.
She's still there today, Professor Hull?
She is. They alternate. So she used to be the chair of the department, but they alternate. So right now she's not the chair, but she's still there. I'm like, you're never going to retire. You're such an asset to Rutgers. So I keep in touch with her to this day. So
that's great. That's great. In general, what advice would you have for people interested in becoming a lawyer?
That's a good question. I think I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I didn't know what it entailed. And I know that it was some challenges along the way. So if you want to be a lawyer, make sure you make that commitment and don't let anything or anyone stand in your way from reaching that. There are going to be some hurdles that you're going to have to leap over, but stay the course. And you will be glad that you stayed the course. Once it's finished, it's 3 years of law school. Sometimes it felt like 13 years of law school, depending on the level of commitment that was involved at the time. But I would say stick to it and know why you're doing it. I know law school can be an expensive venture as well. So don't get into it if you're like, I want to go in there because I'm gonna make billions of dollars when I get out. If that's your intention, that's not going to keep you. That's not going to keep you there. You have to have another goal, I guess, to keep you going, because the reality of lawyer salaries are not what they used to be. But if you are doing something you're passionate about, helping people, then that's what's going to keep you in that field of work. So I would say keep realistic goals in mind, if that's what you truly want to do.
It's an intense, it's funny, I always had aspirations to do a lot of different things. I did pharmacy and maybe medicine, teaching, and which I did teach at Rutgers 2 years ago, and all that. But it's funny, law never,
No.
no, no, it just never, it never
Lost your
creeped up.
mind.
It never creeped up, and I don't know why. I love history.
Okay, it's a lot of history in law,
I
right?
love
So,
history. Actually, interestingly enough, um, I did not go to Rutgers right out of high school because I didn't have the grades. So I went to the University of Toledo
okay.
pharmacy school for 2 years, and I did very well out there. And there's a reason why I'm telling you this story, because it sort of relates to law a little bit. And I spent 2 years there, and I probably would have spent my rest of my life in how I liked it. I like the pace of life. But the summer of '65, Vietnam and civil rights and everything is a good time to be in college, to be aware of all the things going on. Not that much different today, actually. But anyway, I wanted to take a summer course in political science because it was required, and it was required, and I decided I would take it at Rutgers Newark that summer of '65, and the professor actually came from New Brunswick to teach in Newark. And New Brunswick, a lot of people don't know this about Rutgers, but in the '60s, we were regarded as the Berkeley of the East. We were so progressive and so intellectual, and we had some very controversial professors down there talking about the Vietnam War and things. So I had this great professor from New Brunswick, and the kids in the class with me, again, I'm a Toledo University guy. There was Harvard, Yale, Duke, Penn, Michigan. I mean, there was a great cross section because he was a great professor, and I was so intimidated by all these other students from these Ivy League schools that I sat in the back, minding my own business, and never asked a question because I was intimidated. And I got an A in a course.
Really good.
And you know what, LaRita, and I read about this now. I got an A in a course, and that set off a chain of events up here that don't. I could come to Rutgers now. I'm
Okay.
ready.
Confidence builder. Right.
Yeah, I'm ready. And literally within a week after I got my grade, I went down to Washington Street in Newark and met with the admissions guy, and he looked at my grades, what I did, poli-sci and the stuff I didn't, and I transferred literally that September based on poli-sci, even though poli-sci was so close to law.
Right. Right.
But anyway, back to you. What back to you. So what do you think was the most challenging part of law school?
How much time?
Hey, just go.
Law school was one of the most challenging experiences I had to date. There's not too many, other than like giving birth. It was challenging for many reasons. Mentally, that's the most reading I've done in my whole life. I loved reading before law school, after law school. I don't read as much as I would like to because a lot of your job as a lawyer is to read. And so that was a lot, just trying to adjust to the amount, the voluminous amount of work you have to do. And then, oh yeah, you still have to do other things in life. And so kind of the balance of going to law school and, oh, I can't come to this event because I have to study or I have to do these things. Like, it was a definite commitment. And one of my good friends I've been friends with her since second grade, she said she felt neglected because she knew I was in tunnel vision. And I'm appreciative of her because she was very patient with me. She knew this will all be over soon. But during it, she was like, you kind of just like, I didn't ignore her, but she knew I can't do much because I want to just do this one time. I don't want to have to do this again. I want to get to my end goal, and then we can celebrate afterwards. So I think that was most challenging. But I also am so grateful, just like I had professors at Rutgers, Newark, professors during law school who I still speak to today. Like I'm good at keeping in touch with people who challenge the way I thought about things. It's amazing. Like I'm like, was I thinking before law school? Because they kind of maybe think about it, like self-reflection. And I'm grateful. And similar to how Rutgers Newark is kind of a melting pot of different cultures, UDC Law School is similar, where we had exposure to different kind of cultures. And I was grateful because it helped my experience, and I'm sure it helped other people's experiences to see different cultures and see how we responded to different things. So I was grateful for that. Even though it was challenging, it was very rewarding. So
Great.
mm-hmm.
Okay, a heavy question to ask. What are the challenges you face as a Black female lawyer?
I would say, so 36, so the half of the population is female. But when you get into the legal field, it gets a little bit more narrow, and 36% of lawyers are women. And then it gets even more narrow, only 5% of lawyers are Black lawyers. And then even more narrow, 2% of lawyers are Black female lawyers. So there's not a lot of women that I see that look like me, which can kind of, representation matters. Just like it matters for children to see someone that looks like them in positions. When we had Kamala Harris be sworn in as the first woman of color as vice president, representation matters. When kids see someone that looks like them, the same thing applies to adults. They see somebody that looks like, it gives you hope. It gives you inspiration that, hey, I can do this. And so people, like we had the women, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was the first, one of the infamous Supreme Court justices who passed away recently, but she gave me hope. She's not a Black woman, but she gave me hope that, hey, women can get into those positions of power. And we had several women come after her. And so I think being a Black woman lawyer, sometimes it can be lonely because you don't see as many people like you. But I also try to forge relationships with other people and kind of see how that will, enhance my experiences and theirs as well. I think that hopefully we're moving in a direction where those numbers will increase, and then people will feel confident. Just like you said, you got that A in political science that gave you the confidence to say, I can go. Hopefully other people can feel the confidence to go to law school and become lawyers as well. And hopefully companies and even other employers will see hiring Black lawyers, Black women lawyers as a priority. Particularly, I guess, in the law firm world, there's not a lot of women who are at the partner level where they're sharing equity profits. And so things need to be changed on the private sector, but also I think since I'm in the government sector, I see a little bit more than what is happening in the private sector. So I think we're making strides in the right direction, but we still have a little more ways to go.
Yeah,
and I'm grateful that I'm part of that journey.
Yes, we do. And it's a great journey. And that was a great answer. Thank you. I'm going to go off topic and ask you something. I think you'll like it. It's a one-word answer.
Okay.
I like to do this. Living or dead, excluding family or friends, somebody you'd like to spend the day with. You like that?
I like it.
Good.
It depends on the day. I would say,
and you can come up with a couple. There's no rules.
Okay.
Here. No rules.
I would say one person would be Angela Rye. She's more my contemporary. She's closer in age to me. She's an attorney from Washington State, but she is a policymaker in Washington, D.C. And she's a force to be reckoned with. I'm just like, how did you? And she has a rich history. Her dad was in civil rights, and so she's kind of a person who, I guess, she don't take no mess. She will stand up for her rights, advocate for people at all costs. So that wasn't one word answer, but that would be my answer. Angela Rye.
Perfect.
And then somebody who's not my peer, with Michelle Obama, because she's awesome. She's my best friend in my head.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. It's funny, I used to see her brother.
Oh,
Her brother, Craig, he played for Princeton basketball. A lot of people don't know
right,
that.
right. Mhm.
He played for Princeton, and then eventually he became a Big Ten broadcaster.
Right.
So I go to all the Rutgers games, and I have
Mhm.
great seats, and I also hang around until the place is completely empty.
Okay.
And then I, get a chance to see a lot of the players and talk, and a lot of players know me. And then eventually he would walk down from the broadcast booth, and I'm kind of a groupie, kind of, and we would talk, and I'm not also not shy, and he actually lived here in Jersey, and I invited him to come on. I had a TV show before the pandemic, but he's a great guy, and we talked, and I invited him, and of course then he left the Big Ten Network. I don't know where he is now,
Okay.
but kind of neat. So
Mhm.
back, who are your inspirations? And I kind of, well, you just told me one, in role models in the legal field besides Angela.
Well, Michelle Obama, so I can expand a little bit more on that because
Yeah.
reading her book, Becoming, I got a little insight of who she is in that book.
You mean
And it
this
was
book?
a great, yes. I got it for my daughter for one Christmas and we read it together. It is a great book. My daughter at the time was, I think she was 12, but she can still appreciate it. And Michelle Obama is very relatable. She's a lawyer, she's a mom, she's a wife. She wears a lot of hats and she's very.
You just froze. Your video just froze. Can you hear me? Okay. Anyway, we're back.
Okay.
We had a technical glitch. You
Yes,
froze.
technology is great when
Yeah,
it's not.
and so I was smart enough to pause it. So you were finishing with Michelle Obama.
Yes, I mean, she just wears a lot of hats as a mom, a wife, a lawyer, and just to see her journey, her professional journey and her personal journey to show that, I think she said something in her book, like she wanted to know, can she have this great career and also have this family life? And she says, there's no way you can be great at everything at the same time. Like it's impossible. And when she kind of had that light bulb moment, it made her realize and didn't have mom guilt or feel guilt about not pursuing what she wants to do professionally. And I found that comforting because it's a struggle to try to do a lot of things, and even certain things are expected as women, just to society. And to know that I'm not alone, and she's made great strides. She made a choice to not continue. Her husband was elected first Black president of the United States of America, but make no question about it, she is capable of being an awesome attorney, and she
Okay, you had frozen again, and I paused. And all right, we're back.
Okay.
Unfrozen. We're back
I don't know what's
unfrozen.
happening. Maybe he's busy right now.
So, kind of winding down, a couple more things just to kind of touch base. I'd love you to talk about your YouTube channel and how did you end up with the YouTube channel and become an influencer. So please talk about that.
Sure. So similar to you, my channel with my business partner, Tracy, was born during the pandemic. So we're reaching our 1-year mark next month. And we wanted to find ways that we can help law students. That's how it started. So we have a playlist that's pre-law, law school and beyond, where we talk about things that you should think about, things that we wish we thought about before law school. And now we're like, we want to share these little gems so that we can possibly help some other people. YouTube wasn't around when we were trying to go to law school. We didn't have that resource. And so trying to be that resource to other people was kind of what we were passionate about. And then it kind of grew from there because we talk about other things other than law school, because the tagline is our lives as lawyers, real estate investors, and everything in between. So like Michelle Obama, who wears multiple hats, we do as well. And we kind of talk about things that are probably relevant to other people other than their profession. We talk about personal finance, we talk about employment law, veterans law, things of that nature. So it's called TXC Tells All.
I want to make sure I have, I want to make sure, okay, it's here and folks will be able to see it.
Okay.
Link YouTube, TXC Tell All, so that's here for people to see.
Okay.
Perfect, because you know, we're YouTubers.
Right.
So and you know, I'm here to promote you. There's no sense of competition whatsoever.
Right.
It's a big, wide, wonderful world.
Right.
Truly a big, wide, wonderful world, and that's why you're here, for me to help you promote your channel. Finally, what would you say your dream job would be?
Good question. I want to be a judge. I still want to be a judge. Life is funny, it takes you in different directions. So we'll see. There are opportunities in my current job to be an administrative law judge if I wanted to take that route. I originally am admitted to the bar in Maryland. I moved to Texas about 4 years ago now almost. And I got admitted to the Texas bar. So I can practice in Texas as well. When you work in the federal government, you just have to be admitted to one bar, and you practice basically anywhere if you're doing federal law. But if you're doing state law, you have to be admitted to the bar of that state that you're trying to practice. So I have a mention to Texas bar. So perhaps I can possibly be a judge here or in the federal government. But that's my ultimate dream job, to become a judge, to make the decisions that, you know, in charge.
That's great. You know, you don't know, I'm saying the other day, Governor Murphy, and this is kind of relevant to what you just said, Governor Murphy nominated to the New Jersey Supreme Court a female attorney who's only 40 years old.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Her last name, I think, is Apter, A-P-T-E-R.
Okay.
And it just struck me like, wow. Because I know when Judge Ginsburg was nominated to the Supreme Court, she was on the older side at 63, I think. But so to you, and so there is no more barriers of, you know, youth to being a judge. One would think a judge is old and gray and
but not
no, it's a new world, LaRita.
Right.
And this nominee is just 40 years old to the Supreme Court of New Jersey. It's kind of cool, which fits into, you know, what you'd like to do. So this is the wrap. And
thank you for having us on.
and thank you for being here. And as I'll reiterate, you are so interesting. And if ever you'd like to come back here and talk about whatever, is it Tracy?
Yes, Tracy is my business partner.
Hey, I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here. I'm a card-carrying member of AARP, which means I'm quote retired, whatever the hell that means. And I would love to have you come back and we can talk about that. But I just can't thank you enough.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. So you be well. Only good things, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, LaRita.